Good evening, everyone, and let me welcome you to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, April the 28th, 2015. Madam Clerk, the board is present except for Wayne Abley, who is representing us in Raleigh at a COG meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please check your phones and other devices that you may have and put those on silent for me at this time, if you would. If you are a speaker tonight, please remember, we'll ask you to come to the podium or the middle table. If you would, stay close to this microphone so that Kay can get that recorded. We'll start our meeting tonight with our invocation, which will be done by Pastor John E. White from the Morganton First Assembly of God. And after that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which will be done by our kids from Chesterfield Elementary School. So if you'll stand with me for the invocation. Pastor White.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we approach you tonight with humble hearts and grateful hearts. Father, we are grateful that we live in America, the greatest country the world has ever known. And Lord, it's great because you have sent men and women to lead us, and tonight's no different. Father, I pray that you will come alongside these men as they lead us and guide us and direct us. Father, that you will give them creative thoughts on how to solve pressing issues and problems. Father, as we bow our hearts now, we are confident that you will come and lead these men as they lead us. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor White. Children, come forward. Thank you for being here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, guys, if y'all will just come around front, we're going to come down and take a picture with you, and then we're going to put you on that wall of fame over there so you can come see it. All right, all you parents that are out there, come on up so you can get good pictures, okay?
Dress and set up.
Parents, y'all need to come on. Anybody? Good? Got it? Ladies and gentlemen, get back. All right, gentlemen, our next item of business is our approval of our meeting minutes. We have the February 27th Board of Commissioners regular meeting, March the 3rd pre-agenda meeting, March the 3rd special meeting, March the 17th regular meeting, and March the 20th recess meeting. I think we've all had time to take a look at those, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion for all five?
Please, sir.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard my motion to approve all five agenda items for minutes. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hands. It'll be 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Maynard. Moving to the approval of the agenda. You've had time to see the agenda. Gentlemen, I'd like to add one item that came in late that we are all familiar with, and that would be a letter regarding Senate Bill 122. So without objection, I'd like to add that to the agenda. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve the agenda as amended.
You've heard Manny's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. Moving on to our presentations. Our first presentation tonight will be the financial data for the period ending March 31st, 2015, presented by Sandy Holman, our WPCC Chief Financial Officer. Sandy?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me here tonight. I'm going to give a brief overview of the financial position for Western Piedmont Community College for fiscal year 2014-15 through the period ending March 31st. First, our state funds. We have a budget currently of $16,844,522, in which we have expended $11,673,462 for 69.3% of our budget through March 31st. This is the 3/4 mark of the fiscal year, and it is our goal usually to have 70 to 75% of our budget expended going into the last quarter of the fiscal year. The next three columns that you can see in your package is our county funds. And through March 31st, our budget is $2,431,329, which includes the appropriations and also rental income. And we have spent $1,603,278 of that, or 65.9%. And I'll come back to this in just a minute because I want to talk about that percentage a little bit. The last three columns that you'll see are our institutional funds, and we have a budget of $9,106,105. And this includes our financial aid, grants that the college receives, self-supporting courses, our bookstore, and other miscellaneous accounts. And I want to make note that approximately 75% is financial aid to our students, and 15% is due to our bookstore. The other 10% is for those grants and other items. So if you'll look on the second page is where we break down our county expenditures, and you'll see the different categories that we have, whereas 71% is spent on salaries and benefits along with utilities. That's the majority of our county expenditures. And I said I wanted to address the 60% that we have expended. One of the things that we have done this year is recently worked with our insurance company to take our policies, which normally come due the 1st of June, to have a premium date in October. This will help us in financial planning through the year. So we've paid 3 months to extend that to October. So we've been able to save some of our county funding. And a couple things that we want to do, because we are in the process of updating our facility planning, and we're going to be using those funds for a lot of renovations that we're going to need to do. As the county commissioners are aware, we are applying for a Golden Leaf grant, which hopefully we'll get and know in June, which will allow us to build a mechatronics building, which is a program that's going to help our workforce in this county. The place that we're going to pit that right now currently is where our greenhouses are, and so we're in the process of bidding that out to build new greenhouses on our Jim A. Richardson complex, which will involve some renovation there and some new greenhouses. But that will pit that in our farm area to build that program as well. So that's why we've not spent as much of our county funds as we normally would at this time of the year. And so that's the financial position of the college through March 31st. Are there any questions about any of that?
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Sandy's report. Anybody got any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one, and it is about the budget. You're showing 29.3% for utilities. Is that, or you may not know, but is that normal? That seems, approaching 30% for utilities seems a little high.
That's actually pretty normal for our county budget. And last year, we had finished our project where we replaced some chillers and water coolers, and that actually helped our utility cost. But the City of Morganton's rates increased last year, so we kind of broke even with that. But that is actually pretty close to where we anticipated our utilities being. That's one of our major expenditures.
$470,000 a year is pretty normal. Can I be Duke Power for a month?
Well, it's mostly City of Morganton. But Duke Power gets their fair share as well.
Thank you very much. That's the only question I had.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, let the minutes reflect that this presentation was accepted. Thank you,
Thank
Sally.
you.
Sally. You said Sally's name. All righty. Moving on to item number 2 is our presentation of financial data for the period ending March 31st for the Burke County Public Schools, presented by Keith Lawson. Keith?
Good evening, Chairman Carswell, County Commissioners, County officials. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to present the third quarter financial results for Burke County Public Schools. Aren't these financial presentations exciting? I'll try to live up to Sandy's presentation, but let me start with our estimated revenue projections for the fiscal year 14-15. The lion's share of our budget is made up of state funds, which is $72 million. Again, this is third quarter results, so what you would expect to see as far as anticipated revenues at this point in time would be a 75% mark, or 3/4. As you can see out to the far right, state revenues were at 77.5%. Our federal funding, our entire budget for the current year is $8.5 million. We have received March year to date 5.9, which puts us at 69.5% of anticipated federal revenues. The federal revenues tend to lag behind the benchmark or the point in time of the year we're at, and the reason that is most of our federal funds we expend and then are reimbursed back. So that is why that lags a little below that 75% goal. Local funding, which is what you all provide, it's our second largest funding source at 14%. We are at 74.7% of anticipated revenues through the third quarter, so basically right on goal. Fines and forfeitures. Here's one that I hope that this is a good indicator for the county. I look back 7-8 years ago, our fines and forfeiture revenues for the school system, which are fines and forfeitures surrendered at the county courthouse, were close to $750,000 a year. I have annually lowered and lowered and lowered those projections and continue to overproject, and as you can see, it looks like yet again, unfortunately for the school system budget, but fortunately for the county, those receipts are down. Fund balance, that is basically our savings account. We've estimated $1.6 million in use of fund balance this year. We have not used any fund balance to this point, but I will explain that in our next slide when I explain county expenditures. And then our special revenue fund, that is our established, much talked about currently in the state legislature, Fund 8 revenue, which is things such as our daycare programs, other federal and local grant sources that come to us that are earmarked for the school system, our pre-K tuition paying parents, and things of that nature. So sum total, our estimated revenues for this current fiscal year are $101.9 million. We are in receipt of 73.8% of that. So if we didn't operate on basically a reimbursement basis on those federal funds, we'd be right on target for our receipted revenues. Next, to get into a little further detail, and that's just there we go, thank you. Our county revenues specifically. You can see there's an 11, 12, 12, 13, and 13, 14 historical columns. I won't go through those. I've gone through those every quarter for the last couple of years, but you can see that's just for comparative purposes. I will jump to the budget column. As you can see, our anticipated budget for our local revenues was $14.6 million for the current year. That included your allocation to the school system as well as $1.6 million of anticipated fund balance. Through the first 3 quarters, we have expended $10.8 million of that. As you can see, if you would please, and the $1,065,000 number in the far right column under the expenditures, you see the $1,065,000. That's the indicator of our position as far as spending. We have not, again, as on the previous slide, expended fund balance to this point. Now, I wish I could go woohoo and we could all get excited, and when we come to you with our budget request, I could ask for a whole lot less next year. But the fourth quarter of our local spending is our strongest quarter of spending, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Unlike the first quarter, we don't have teachers employed in the month of July, so there's no teacher payroll. The fourth quarter, we have a full quarter of expenditures, so that's one of our heaviest payroll quarters. In addition to that, our fourth quarter is when we pay all of our annual workers' comp liability and insurance premiums, property insurance premiums. So you can anticipate the fourth quarter spending to probably exceed any previous quarter by about $1.5 million, which will turn that fund balance position around. That being said, any questions?
All right, gentlemen, you heard Keith's report. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to commend you on your budget and that you didn't spend any of your fund balance.
Thank you, sir.
You took that away from me, but anyhow, I think it is commendable that thus far you've operated in budget without spending the fund balance.
Thank you.
Hats off to you.
All right, Madam Clerk, let the minutes reflect that Keith has made his presentation and it has been accepted. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 3 is from the Health Department, the State of the County Health Report for 2014, presented by Ms. Lisa Moore, our public health educator. Lisa?
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, County Manager, Commissioners, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. I am here to present your 2014 State of the County Health Report, which actually does have quite a few positives in it this year. This actual report highlights local health data that has changed since the last year of report and since our 2011 Community Health Needs Assessment was turned in, and any of the efforts of our partnering agencies within the community and what we've done over the last year. Just for your reference, you will be seeing me a couple of times in the near future because to be in compliance with the state and with the IRS, we have to do a community health needs assessment in years 2015 and in 2016. So you will get to see me as a regular part of your information. So for the first part of the report that you have, it updates some demographics and some economic data. A couple of the improvements to note is the 2012-13 school year Burke County High School graduation rate, the SAT participation rate, and the average SAT score were all higher than the state rate. Recently, the North Carolina Department of Commerce ranked Burke County as a Tier 2 designation based on the improvements in our unemployment rate. For the last several years previous to now, Burke County has been ranked as a Tier 1 county, which is one of the 40 most distressed economies in the state. So that has been improved over the last year. Burke County's unintentional injury death rate has continued to rise since 1997. Along with the 5 leading causes of death, heart disease, total cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, stroke, and Alzheimer's have all stayed the same. And the rates have stayed either exactly the same or have gone up slightly. The report highlights priority updates and community initiatives. So during the pre-agenda, there was a question about the obesity rate within Burke County and what are the efforts that we are doing to try to reduce that. So within the county, some small steps are being made to reduce that obesity rate and reduce some of the chronic diseases that come along with that, since obesity is one of the underlying conditions for some of the chronic diseases. Some community initiatives that are working together to help provide more access to healthier food options, increase physical activity, and working with individuals managing their chronic diseases. The Health Department, Carolina's Healthcare System, Blue Ridge, and partnering agencies offer weight management, chronic disease, and exercise classes, provide medical nutrition therapy for children and adults, assist with starting and expanding community gardens, along with writing grants to secure funds to help increase access to healthy food options for SNAP EBT recipients at the local farmers markets, increase nutrition education within the community, and working to develop a comprehensive approach to diabetes, early detection, and chronic disease management. Some of the new community initiatives include the Burke Wellness Initiative, which is a group of partnering agencies working together through a community engagement process called Mobilizing for Action Through Planning and Partnerships to Complete the 2016 Community Health Needs Assessment and work through strategies and evaluation to better utilize our resources within the county. Burke Integrated Health is the new hub within the county. It is a collaborative of agencies providing primary care, mental health, behavioral health, and substance abuse and use services all in one location. This initiative will be located in the Catawba Valley Behavioral Health Practice and will begin seeing clients very soon. A grant was submitted to the Kate B. Reynolds Trust from the county's local food system initiative to secure funding to provide an EBT machine at the local farmers market so that SNAP EBT recipients will have access to purchase healthy produce, provide targeted nutrition education and cooking demonstrations, along with creating new and expanding existing community gardens. Also highlighted within the report is our continued drug use and abuse issue in Burke County. The sheriff and collaborating agencies within the Burke Substance Abuse Network, with the leadership of Burke Recovery, which is formerly known as the Burke Council on Alcoholism and Chemical Dependency, has been creating awareness and possible strategies to deal with this multifaceted issue. Recently, a series of news articles were printed in the paper defining the problem, depicting the stress, suffering, and anguish for the substance user and family unit, and the support and recovery options being offered. Through a great deal of community work, 2 grants have been secured to help sustain this community support, one of which is the North Carolina Coalition's initiative to engage the community to help measure the problem, implement evidence-based sustainable changes such as the availability of alcohol to minors, as well as attitudes and norms within the community. The next grant is the North Carolina Strategic Prevention Framework Partnership for Success Initiative, and say that all at one time, awarded to focus on reducing non-medical use of prescription drugs among individuals aged 12 to 25. A community coalition of medical providers, law enforcement, stakeholders, and community advocates will convene to develop a framework around this issue. So a great deal of positive work is happening in Burke County, and with everyone working together, we can all improve the community's health and well-being. If you would like more information or want to read this report in its entirety, you can go to the Health Department's website at www.burkenc.org, go under Departments and then under Health, and you will have access to this report. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Any questions or any comments for Lisa, gentlemen? Great report. I'm glad to see our numbers improving. It's just much better than last year's reports.
It is getting better.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
You've heard manager's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Moving on, item number 4 is from the Health Department also. Presentation on dual accreditation status presented by Rebecca McLeod, Health Director. Rebecca?
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and Commissioners.
Good evening.
How are y'all?
Good.
Thank y'all for allowing me to spend just a few minutes with you. When I was here at Pre-Agenda, I was able to talk to you about us obtaining our national accreditation. And one of the things I'd like to say to you is we have been accredited through the state since 2008. And whenever we decided we were up for reaccreditation, we had the opportunity to go after national accreditation. And you might say, well, why do you want to do that? Our department is one that we wanted to change our culture. In times where money is tight, where resources are slim, when we work with a lot of community collaborations, we said we need to do something. So we had the opportunity through a grant with the CDC to actually help us pay for this. We were able to go through, and we're the only health department in the United States who has gone through state and national accreditation at the same time and came out on the other end. Woohoo! You can see I brought my cheering section with me.
Yes, I see.
I brought the people who actually did this. They're here tonight. And just to let you know that the Public Health Accreditation Board did meet in March of 2015 and notified us that we are accredited nationally. And what that means to us and to the staff is that we're meeting the goal of improving and protecting the health of the people here in Burke County. And we do that by advancing the quality of the services we provide. Because we all know, and I've come to you before about resources are tight, monies are tight, so we have to do our priorities. But our level of quality in the services we've been providing, especially in the last 2 years, have risen due to the people who are sitting here in the audience with me, the staff. And also we have Board of Health members here too. And to date, since we began this initiative, we've actually saved the county almost $46,000 on our return on investment by the initiatives we've done. You like that? I love that. I wanted to try to find some more money, but that was all I could find so far that we know for sure that I can say we did $46,000 we saved.
Keep looking.
We'll keep looking. We do. But by being nationally accredited and with the state accredits, it's high standards, and the staff have met that and stepped up and said we're transparent, we're accountable, and we're credible to everybody we work with, not only when we report to you, the elected officials, our partner agencies, but also to the people who live in this county. And with us being accredited dually, this shows our community and the future funders that we have and the current funders that our health department is spending its money wisely, collaborating with partners when we can, and providing the highest quality of needed services. So we will continue to strive. That is our promise to you as the commissioners and our elected officials. We will continuously strive to improve our services. We keep our eye on the goal of setting our priorities through our strategic plan, and which our Board of Health staff and community partners set for us. We present it to you through our budget, because we don't come to you unless we have our evidence-based practices, which is what all this is about now. And what I wanted to say is we thank you for the opportunity to serve our citizens, because we truly do love Burke County. And we do want to provide them with the highest quality of service, which I feel that we do. On a shoestring some days, I'm going to put that little in. Is that about right? And I have with me tonight the people who've made that happen. We have Board of Health members here. Richard Garrison's here. Stand up. We have Susan Bingham. Did anybody else slip in? We do have a board of 11, but several of them had other commitments tonight. But then I also have 23 of our 50 staff who took time out tonight to come, who, if you stand for environmental health, we have them. We have our WIC, our Women, Infant, and Children's Supplemental Food Nutrition Program. We have our management support staff, who are our backbone, who get us through. Stand up, ladies. We have our clinical staff, our nurses, who are here. Y'all can stand up. And then I have I have our lab staff. Stand up back there too. That would be Karen and Ruth. And then we have the rest of our management team, which is Kathy and Jeff and Lisa and Ashley. And I would like Ashley to stand up, because all of them need to stand up and be recognized. But Ashley Rink is our agency coordinator who drug us through this and continues to. I say drug. I was right there with her. I said, come on, y'all, we're going. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. We're going to do something different. So it's actually benefited us so far. We're able to get into the third cohort, the last cohort with the state for quality improvement. We didn't think we had a chance, and they actually put us in. So that's another, we'll be able to do another round of savings. So we'll have about half the staff trained in lean methodology to be able to save the county more money. So we do have a plaque, which is very nice, and Kay is going to pass around the certificate. But FAB did send us a very nice plaque. We will be doing an open house at the health department once the walls get painted. But I'm not going to have you over until we get the walls painted. But we'll put the word out there. You have to look nice. I mean, we don't want to be the redheaded stepchildren when we have national accreditation. So General Services does a great job with our building and keeping them up to date. They always have. We're going to have this added touch up with the paint. We'll have an open house, invite all of y'all, and we will hope you can come. And we're going to have a party. I'm sorry, but we will have a party. We can do that because they're going to celebrate the hard work that these people did. So if y'all don't mind, I'd just like to say thank you for giving us the opportunity and thank y'all for doing it. So if you have any questions or anything.
No questions right now. Rebecca, if you can have your group stand so that we can stand with you and applaud you.
Oh, thank you. Y'all stand up. But thank you very much.
Rebecca, on behalf of the Burke County Board of Commissioners, I want to speak first, and maybe some of the other commissioners have something to say. This was a tremendous accomplishment. It was a time-consuming matter, and I know everybody worked diligently. I'm very proud of Burke County to say that we're the only county in the United States of America that has this accreditation. That is phenomenal. Gentlemen?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I prematurely sometimes when I'm studying and reading what's coming up before us on an agenda, I'll write out questions, and I wrote 2 questions, and when I got down to the bottom of it, the questions were answered. And the questions were, what are the benefits and what does Burke County receive from it? And both your purpose, which has, I think, 3 points to it, and your benefits, which has 7, which makes it 10, will tell you the benefits of the county. You think you're the winners. Burke County citizens are really the winners. But I appreciate and applaud you going beyond the call of duty and earning this accreditation. And I'm like Johnny, I am real proud that we have that accreditation and can brag about our health department. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure, I'd like to congratulate all of the people involved in this. And we really appreciate your work. Maybe we can't give you all the money that you want each year, but we try, and we keep that in mind when we come to budget time, and we do the best we can. So thank you very much for all the hard work you put into this.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Sounds like a story for County Lines magazine.
Ashley is on it. Ashley,
She's good.
She's on it.
If you have a real big party and invite the commissioners, Johnny might help you pay for it.
Yes. I will. I'll do it.
We will.
Okay.
But
Thank you
y'all very
so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, moving on, our next item is scheduled public hearings. First from our Planning Department, Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2015-02, and our public hearing presented by Scott Carpenter, Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. Scott, give them a few seconds to exit. And we'll... Yes.
Should let them go until after the meeting.
That was a great job. All right. Well, Mr. Chairman, honorable board members, Madam Clerk, and Mr. Steen, good evening. I only have one item for you tonight, and that is a rezoning request, and this rezoning request actually comes from staff. So as rare as it is, I'm here before you to ask that you all support rezoning 2 parcels of property that are owned by Crescent Resources. Staff is proposing the rezoning of 2 adjoining parcels of vacant land, and they total 22.76 acres. The parcels are located on southeast portion of Lake James, and they are within the Lake James Overlay District. Both of these parcels are owned by Crescent. The zoning map amendment request is to rezone 1 parcel of land totaling 15.42 acres, and its PIN number for the record is 17533200976 from Conservation District Estate to Conservation District Low Density. So the difference in those 2 categories is one allows 1 dwelling unit to 5 acres, the other one allows 1 dwelling unit to 3.5 acres. The second parcel of land totals 7.34 acres, and it is presented by PIN number 175312935
V.2.53, and the request is to rezone this parcel from R1 to Conservation District Low Density. The main difference in those two classifications, again, is that in the R1 district, you can have a half-acre lot. In the Conservation District Low Density, it's 1 to 3.5 dwelling units. So currently, if all the dwelling units that could be built were built on these two parcels, that would allow for 17 dwelling units. Under this proposed change in rezoning, a total of 6 dwelling units could be built on those 22.5 acres. So as far as the site goes, the properties are vacant and they're wooded. The parcels are located at the corner of North Powerhouse Road and Benfield Landing Road. The 15.42 acre parcel will be accessed from North Powerhouse Road, and the 7.42 acre parcel would be accessed from Benfield Landings Road. Both parcels do slope fairly steeply towards Lake James. A portion of each parcel has Duke Energy power line right-of-way on it, which makes it a real challenge to develop, especially on the Benfield road side. The adjacent land uses are as follows. The 7.34 acre parcel lies between Benfield's Landing Road and Lake James. To the south and across Benfield's Landing Road are several parcels of vacant land owned by Crescent Resources. The 15.42 parcel lies between North Powerhouse Road and Lake James. The parcel adjoins the other vacant parcel in this proposed rezoning at the south. To the north, the parcel adjoins Patty Creek Dam. To the east and across North Powerhouse Road is a vacant 215 acre parcel currently owned by Duke Energy. That parcel, by the way, after the FERC is approved, that large parcel will be owned by the state of North Carolina, and it will probably be under the Wildlife Commission. Public water is available along Benfield's Landing Road. There is no public sewer available to this area, and both parcels are located in the Lake James Overlay District. As far as conformity with the comprehensive plan, the Lake James Phase 1 plan adopted in 2002 is the current land use plan for this area. A portion of the Lake James Phase 1 plan recommended the establishment of conservation districts within the study area. We believe that this recommendation was implemented in 2002 at the same time that the plan was adopted, and we believe further that this proposal enhances and supports that recommendation. The rezoning would not alter any of the recommendations of the Lake James Phase 1 plan for these parcels. The rezoning request would be appropriate, we believe, for these locations for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would bring the 7.34 acre R1 zone parcel under Conservation District Low Density District, which is what the Phase 1 plan intended to recommend. The Conservation Low Density District would lower the average density that would be allowed for the R1 zoning. The proposed rezoning would incorporate additional development standards to the R1 parcel, which are not now there. The rezoning change would provide a reduction in the overall density for these two parcels. Also, we believe that the Fonta Flora Loop Trail will be able to cross these parcels by way of a trail easement provided by Crescent Communities. As part of this rezoning request, you would also have to make a second motion, which is a zoning consistency statement. And the zoning consistency statement that I have is that it is consistent with the Lake James Phase 1 plan, focused primarily on environmental concerns stemming from proposed large tract development surrounding Lake James. Further, the requested rezoning protects the density and the integrity of the Lake James Overlay District. And that's my presentation, gentlemen.
All right, this time I'm going to open the public hearing on this matter. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this matter? If you would, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, please. Speak closely to that mic.
My name is George Johnson. I'm president of Lake James Environmental Association. Last time I stood here, it was for a rezoning that took place in 1780. And as you recall, that was a collaborative effort involving a lot of people, and I see the same thing involved in this situation, where all the parties that are looking at the situation respect the environmental constraints, they respect the planning that's happened here to support this, so we are in favor of this motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else here to speak to it? Please come to the podium, state your name.
Paul Braun. Come here tonight. I was chosen to come on behalf of a group of us who reside in Oak Hill Fish Hatchery, Lake James area. I come tonight to applaud the commission for supporting the good work that's been going on around and at the lake. We've been very fortunate over the past number of years to have some outstanding planners, some planners that are willing to stand up and take the high road, even if it demands putting themselves in an uncomfortable light to business interest and the like. There's a lot of good things happening there. The trail moving forward with the trail network, been very involved with that. There's a lot of other people that are involved and all that's, just not up in the front. And we realize that none of this work could get done and nobody would be able to accomplish anything without the help and the support of good government behind us and behind those that seek to set a legacy for the future. And it is about vision. And a lot of people might not realize what's happening today. The day will come that people look back and will be glad that you folks had future vision in mind and supported those that have the same or likewise thinking. There are those that would seek to chip away and whittle and weaken the good work that's been done around Lake James to protect that resource that belongs to us all. And there's a whole lot of people watching. There's a threat coming. We're aware of it. The keyboards were clicking, the phone lines were buzzing on Sunday night. And I want the Board of Commission to know that you will have public support and strong public support towards upholding these ordinances. And we ask that you toe the line with us and stand against those that would seek to weaken these by using laws to get around them or other tactics to get around them. These rules are one of the best things that's happening in regard to our drinking water and the water that comes through our homes. And I just want you to know that the public's watching. We're out there, we're organized, and we will stand with you if you will stand with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium and state your name.
I'm Suzanne Johnson, and I just want to say with regard to the zoning issue that it appears that this is a very good decision for the county, and that you will hope, and I hope that you will continue to support the rules and regulations that protect the lake. And I can't be quite as eloquent as the previous speaker here, but we want to maintain the integrity of the rules and regs that were fought so hardly for about 15 years ago. And we appreciate your concern with this and the support that you've given the various issues that are popping up in recent times here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else like to speak to ZMA 2015-02? If not, Madam Clerk, I'm going to close the public hearing. Gentlemen, anybody have any questions or comments for Scott? Hearing no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the ordinance amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to ZMA 2015-02. And secondly, move to adopt the zoning consistency statement as brought forward from our developer, Mr. Carpenter.
All right, you've heard Jeff's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be unanimous 4-0. Thank you very much, Scott, and ladies and gentlemen that appeared before us tonight. Okay, moving on to item number 8, our informal public comments. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I have either, I know I've got one for sure. I'm not sure if Mr. Braun or the Johnsons want to speak again. Okay, so I've got a couple. Miss Edna Wisnett.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and commissioners and officers and Madam Clerk. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to speak in favor of water being run down on Highway 18. It's a 3-mile stretch that doesn't have water. And my brothers, Billy and Vivian Mace, and A.D. and Christine Mace and myself want to make a plea tonight to have running water down there. And I've been talking or communicating with Mr. Hollifield for the last few months and talked with Mr. Carswell. And it's my understanding that it's in the works, but we just want to make that plea that it go through and that we will have clean running water that we don't have now. We have iron and graphite, and we just would really appreciate to have water down 18. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Wisnett. All right, who would be next, Madam Clerk?
Mr. George Johnson.
I guess I need a clarification. One of the first things you did tonight was to add to your agenda an item having to do with the Senate Bill 122.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's being discussed this evening, or?
There will be a motion forthcoming, I think, from one of these gentlemen. We're going to present a letter to the senator.
Okay. Could I ask for some details about that? I want to make some comments about it, but I don't want to step on your feet.
It'll be a letter in opposition to Senate Bill 122.
Okay. Then I'll just say that I also think that that's very good, and I support your endeavors in that regard. On another issue, there is information in the packet for this meeting about the shooting range discussion going on with the Wildlife Resources Commission. I want to say that I appreciate your willingness to work with the wildlife people and to consider an alternative site. If that materializes, I think it will be very helpful in terms of preserving the nature preserve and the whole spirit of what's there near the wildlife area, the Linville Gorge Wilderness Area. That's a really special spot, and this would help to protect that. So I encourage you to do that, and we support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Suzanne?
I would say the same things.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Braun, did you have?
I think I pretty well covered it.
Okay, Paul, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, would that be all, Madam Clerk? Okay. Thank you so much for speaking to us tonight. We're moving on to item number 9 is our consent agenda. I'll recognize County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 12 items on the consent agenda. First is clerk reappointment to Foothills Regional Airport Authority. Number 2, county manager, WPCC Emergency Services Training Facility deed. Number 3, county manager, NCDOT Secondary Roads Resolution. Number 4, county manager, proclamation declaring May 7th, 2015 is National Day of Prayer. Number 5, county manager, Golden Leaf Grant for Broughton Hospital Reuse Study, appropriation of county funds. Item 6, finance, home and community care block grant revision. Number 7, finance, audit contract for fiscal year 2014-15. Number 8 is HR, approval of reclassifications. Number 9, JCPC, approval of county plan for Burke County and funding allocation. Item 10, tax release refund report for March 2015. Item 11, tax collection report for March 2015. And item 12, tax EMS collections report for February 2015. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, you've heard Brian's report. I'll entertain a motion for all 12 of these items.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard Maynard's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Be 4-0, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item number 10 is items for decision. Our first item for decision from the Finance Department is our 2015-2016 janitorial bid presented by Bobby Joe Bollinger, Purchasing Agent, Chris Hollifield, General Services Director, and Keith Ferris, our Associate Engineer. So if you folks would come up, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello, ma'am.
As you know, back in March, we put out a bid for the janitorial services for the upcoming fiscal year. On March 22nd, it was advertised in the News Herald, and on April 2nd, we had a pre-bid conference and a mandatory tour. On April 16th, we received 5 sealed bids from companies that had completed the tour and met all of the qualifications, with the exception of one company that we ruled non-responsive because their tabulation was way off. I mean, it was like $23,000 difference. And then another company had left shortly after the tour had started, so they didn't complete it. And my suggestion to the county would be that we actually go with the lowest responsible bidder, which would be American Services.
All right. Chris, you want to say anything now?
Not at this point. I'll wait.
Okay, gentlemen, questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I had several that just involves some language. On page 177 on the contract, we say that either party can cancel with 30 days. JR, I was reviewing this at around 1:30 and didn't have a chance to call you, but I'm just wondering, and somebody will have to tell us, just being practical, I don't see how we can turn around such a large job in 30 days. And I'm wondering if that should be 60 days is the question. It's just food for thought. And on page 209, let me pull that up. I don't remember what that was. Oh, yeah, I see what it is. It was talking about the equipment that was purchased, and if I understand the bid process, Brian, is that they're allowed to buy whatever equipment they perceive that it will take to do the job. That equipment will be secured to Burke County. And the two questions I guess I have with it is, does that equipment stay with Burke County if they don't get the bid for next year? Or how is that amount of money balanced? And do we purchase that new equipment every time we change these positions?
It's my understanding, sir, that the companies that are doing the cleaning are the ones that provide the equipment.
But it's in the budget.
Yes.
Each piece of equipment is in the budget.
It should be in their proposal, because they're stating that they have the means to perform all these jobs.
Cost of equipment is in the contract. Is that correct, Brian?
That I can't answer, sir.
We can check into that. or I will.
I mean, they've got to provide the equipment in order to do the job.
Correct.
And we're paying them a flat amount of money, and they pay for their equipment, their labor and whatever, and their profits all in that.
Correct.
So, to clarify, make sure that Maynard understands, and whoever else understands, if the budget price they are submitting, okay, that is for the service only, and they are responsible for providing their own equipment.
Correct.
That's the two questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anyone else have any comments or questions?
What is the performance requirement? In other words, if they don't perform, how long does it take us to make a change?
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 30 days into the contract to decide if we want to keep them or not.
Suppose they go 3 months and they're not doing what we need, what actions can we take?
We can give them notice that we will be replacing them. And if I'm not mistaken, that is a 30-day notice.
That's a 30-day notice, that's right.
All I have, Mr. Chairman.
Jack, you got anything?
One of my questions, have we been having problems with the contractor for the work
The previous year?
previous years?
Yes. Yes. On and off, yes.
How often or what type of issues do we have?
Performance issues, and then we had some issues with them not doing a background check for all employees before they come on the property.
It's been going on for a while, or?
Yes, sir. I think it's been going on pretty on and off throughout the contract.
This is the first time we've heard about this?
Would be from me. Of course, I'm very new, so.
As I read through this, it seems like it's an ongoing thing, the issues with the contractors as far as the job performance and other things. And my question is, if that's been going on for quite a while, why hasn't something been brought up or done about it in the past?
Yeah, I think some of that may have been because we had a part-time interim person filling 2 roles for a good portion of that contract term, and then I came in the last 3 months of the contract term. So that, I think that probably explains why we just didn't get, we managed, I think, our way through it with staff, but it never got, we didn't have the leadership, I don't think, in place to push it to the point of terminating the contract.
So that's what we're doing now, trying to get some, moving forward on a better contractor that'll do the job?
Yes, this contract term is over at the end of the fiscal year. So this would be standard to move ahead with a different contractor if the bid so falls that way.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know, I think, as I read this, it's been going on for quite a while, and my question is, why hasn't it been brought up previously? I don't recall any complaints about the past performance of their job or what they're doing.
Bobby Joe, how many documented complaints were there? I know they didn't come before this board, but there was documented complaints to you. Is that correct?
Yes, there were, Chris.
Yeah, I stopped counting, but I've got a stack of them. We're in the 100.
In the how many?
100 plus.
100 plus.
I stopped counting at 100.
Were the issues trying to, Jack, if I may, were these issues trying to be rectified by your department?
Yes, that's correct. Okay. We tried to manage our way through it with over the past 9 months.
So I guess to further clarify for Jack and myself, you felt like you didn't need to come to the board with these issues?
Well, I can't speak for the past 9 months, but for the last 3, I have not done that, no.
I can speak to that, Mr. Chairman.
Please do.
We did a survey of all the county employees, I think twice, on how they felt that the work was being done and registering complaints and that type of thing. Most of the complaints were very small things that never really rose to a level of to where we thought we needed to come to the board. So we were always meeting with the group that was under contract, and they were putting in, implementing things. But what it really came down to is from time to time, it was their personnel, their hiring decisions that were the real problem. But like I said, it was usually very small things. So we never moved forward to terminate the contract because we knew it would really be an issue to bring somebody else in all of a sudden and try to have them start up in the middle of the year. And it would probably take 30 to 60 days, and then we would wind up with the same learning curve that we felt that was going on with this contractor. But I think the issue was it never rose to the level of, you all are doing a great job. And so we decided that it was probably best to wait until a new bid process came out, and then we would evaluate who was bidding and discuss it at that time. Did that answer your question?
Jack, that's sufficient?
Well, it's okay, but, and I'd rather you handle it yourself as opposed to coming to the board, but it seems like it's been going on for quite a while, and if you got a contractor that agrees to a contract in certain terms, then he needs to hire the people or do the job like he's supposed to, or she. And if they don't do it, get another one.
Yes, sir. I'm in complete agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Bobby Joe, if I heard you correctly, you were recommending American Facility Services. Is that right?
Yes, sir, because that was the lowest bid.
Okay. As I'm reading some of the documentation I have here, it says that it appears to be the next lowest responsive bidder, but staff believes that the work cannot be completed satisfactorily for 80 cents a square foot when the current provider could not accomplish the work at 85 cents a square foot. I'm confused.
Mr. Chairman, I think what happened there was the fact that I think mobile services, now this was just my opinion, that mobile services would be able to give the county the type of cleaning of the buildings that we actually need. And I knew that...
Now, who could give us the services?
Mobile services.
That's the different company.
That's the highest bid.
Okay.
And I know that general statutes state that I have to go with the lowest bid, which is the American Facility, but...
Mr. Attorney, I don't think our statute says that, does it?
Not for service.
Lowest responsible bid, but it's not necessary to put service contracts out for bid anyway.
Right, because the service contract, we didn't have to bid it out.
Right. Okay, I'm going to make a personal comment here. I'm juggling a lot of information here, and none of it's good. Right now, that's what's in front of me. That's just my personal comment. County Manager, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, you've got a lot of information. You've got one bidder that is extremely low and so far out that I don't think you can reasonably expect them to get the job done. Then you've got three that are in a cluster there in the $300,000 range, and one of those has been patented. They were the previous, I believe, cleaner before this company, and I don't know that we had so much issue with them as much as it was just decided that it's time to go out for bid. And this low bid came in, and now we're going through this period of difficulty and all this problem because we went with the low bid. You've got Patton at what appears to be a reasonable bid for what we're talking about. And then you've got one company that's even more than that, I believe. Is that?
That's Mobile.
Mobile?
Yeah, Patton would be the next low.
Yeah. So I think the board has a few options here. One, you could throw all of this out, reject all the bids, and direct staff to negotiate a contract with the company we believe is going to probably be the best. And if that doesn't work out, then we go to the other one. Or you could go ahead and pick either of the two that you have remaining there that seem to be reasonable and responsive. But Patton is probably the lower of those two. And I believe that is a local company.
Yes.
It is.
And if I remember, with the company we have here, when y'all would call to complain or something, a supervisor was in Winston-Salem.
I think it's Greensboro, High Point
Greensboro,
area.
somewhere.
High Point.
It was over an hour's drive from here, so
Correct.
I don't know how you supervise staff and you're an hour's drive from here.
That did make that, to Jack's comment, I think, that did make it tough when you're trying to manage through this internally without getting,
And
you're dealing
of-
with somebody who's not local.
yeah,
They're
some
not
of
here to be
the-
able to address your issue.
complaints, I think it was there were dust bunnies in the stairwells, or there was a particular spider web that was hanging, some kind of thing in an office. Not exceptionally critical, but you know, it's not. Hey, you're paying, you're expecting to have a certain result, and it just you kept after them and kept after them and kept after them, and it comes a point in time when it's time to say adios, and that's where we are. But we decided to go through the bid process to give people a fair shake and try to look after the county's dollars as we go forward. So that takes a little bit of time, and then I think you had one that didn't follow all the directions. And you know, if they tell me when you're dating somebody, you seeing them at their best and don't expect it to be no better when you're married, well, if they ain't following directions at the pre-bid, I don't know that you're going to follow directions after you sign a contract with them. So anyways, again, that's we're here with this as an option for the board to consider and take action as they deem appropriate.
Chris, at my advanced age, I keep forgetting. I understand 332,000 square feet. Tell me where we're cleaning.
We're cleaning at the HRC building. We're cleaning at Foothills building, the conference center. We're cleaning at Burke Services, Avery, the courthouse, and also the sheriff's department, and the ag building. Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman.
Senior Center.
Senior Center, thank you. Yes.
And the libraries.
And the libraries, that's right. Thank
All right,
you.
Mayor.
I noticed in the study that most of them sent references. Did y'all have a grade that you graded the references of those companies, and did it have much bearing on the decision of which way you went? And I guess a question that we all need to really make sure, if we advertise that we would accept a low bid, are we in trouble if we don't accept a low bid?
This is a service contract. It says the lowest responsive bidder, and you have to determine what's responsive. And like I was saying earlier, somebody tells you they can do a job and they're 25 to 30% below what the cluster responses is. That's probably not going to happen. We're probably going to be right back here with an unsatisfactory service provider and having to go through this again. And again, Paul, if I believe you've been telling me, a service does not have to be bid. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to get in trouble, and I believe there are adequate grounds if anybody challenges the board's decision that we can support that decision.
How about the weight of the references?
I couldn't speak to that.
Well, all I can say is that all the companies that had responsible bids, they all had excellent references. I mean, the lowest one actually cleans government buildings, and the highest one, they offer more services than just cleaning. So I don't think we could go wrong with either one of those that we take.
Just a comment again. It looks like we've been paying a lot of money for not so great service. Am I correct?
I agree, because
Yes, that's my opinion.
Okay. Well, with that said, gentlemen, any other questions or comments?
Yeah. Excuse me, I
Go
didn't
right ahead.
ask one. This came to me. Did the company that cleaned our buildings last year, did they place a bid?
yes, sir, they did.
Okay. I just wondered.
All right, if there's nothing else, what is the pleasure of the board on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I move we select American Facility Services as low bid.
All right, you've heard the motion from Jeff to accept American Facility Services. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. That would be 3-1. I'm voting against. Okay, and that passes. All righty.
Thank you.
All right, moving to item number 2 from Human Resources, the Employee Health and Wellness Clinic RFP. You see we have a suggested motion to table that until May the 19th to allow staff to tour some more facilities. Would somebody please make that motion for me?
So moved.
You heard Jack's motion to table. All in favor, signify by raising your right hands. Be 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. Our other decision item is the item that we all spoke about. We talked about this just within the last 48 hours, is that we have all agreed to our opposition to Senate Bill number 122 that was introduced regarding properties at Lake James. And what we intend to do is write a letter to express our opposition and forward that on to the Honorable Senator Warren Daniels. So if I can get a motion, that letter will be crafted. There is a draft, and it is not totally done yet, Brian.
I didn't know if you want us to copy that also to our House of Representatives members, Mr. Hager and Mr. Blackwell.
I think we all agreed to do that. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Okay, but the letter's still in the draft stage, so I'm not going to read it tonight. All commissioners have decided they will sign the letter when the final wording is correct. The motion tonight will be that we're all in agreement to forward a letter in opposition to Senate 122, if somebody can make that motion.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman, and also include copying it to other key folks that might be on committees reviewing this, as well as the House and Senate leadership.
Okay. Did you get that, Brian? All right, everyone has heard Jeff's motion. All in favor signify by raising your right hands. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. All right, that moves us to our reports and comments section. Moving on to the first one will be our update from our architect on the jail project. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have our folks from Hemphill Randall Architect here, and I'll let them introduce themselves and give you a presentation about where we are in the process and the next steps as far as moving forward with applications to the City of Morganton for street closure and also, I guess, the design of the building. Yes, sir.
Is that right if you use this microphone?
Yes, sir. Ray. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm Jack Hemphill with Hemphill Randall Associates. I have with me Frank Randall, Hemphill Randall Associates. And we'd like to discuss the schematic design package. Then you all should have a package that looks like this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And we thank you so very much for that.
Oh, certainly. And this is a reduced set. The original drawing is 24 by 36, and then we had this reduced down to 11 by 17, just so it would be easy to handle on your platform there. As you probably know, we're calling this schematic design, and it's one of the 5 phases that we have in architecture when you're doing an architectural project. The first of the 5 phases is the schematic design. After that comes the design development. And after that comes the construction document or construction drawing phase. And those are where we put together the actual drawings to be bid, and then the bidding phase, and then finally the construction phase. And I point that out just to understand this is the first of several phases. There are 20 sheets in this set here. When we get to the construction drawing phase, the construction document phase, there'll be anywhere between 150 and 200 sheets of drawings of 24 by 36. So there's quite a bit of work to be done, but also I wanted you to understand that the second phase after this is the design development phase. We take the things that have been established and agreed to under the schematic design phase, and then that's the phase in which they're polished and made and begin to establish more of the details. And then the construction document phase is when you do all of the details, just so you'll understand that. The schematic design phase lays out the overall look of the building, the overall size, the overall scope, the overall program, the overall way in which it functions, so that it functions in a way that it's intended to for its use. In this case, of course, it's a jail, and so it has to function as a jail as it fits the county's particular needs for a jail on a particular site. So that's what it is. It identifies the overall, as I said, size and the overall look of the building, overall color, and how it affects the land, the landscape, the civil engineering, and everything around it. During the course of time we've been working on this, we've gone through multiple designs for that particular site because it is a downtown project, and we have to be very careful in terms of how we lay out the building itself so it fits with so many of the different requirements and demands and needs of a downtown site. We've probably done somewhere between 6 and 10 full-size developed plans to try to see what was the best way to accommodate the needs, both short-term and long-term, for the county on this project and on the site. One of the things that we attempted to do early on was to create a project and a footprint of a project that would fit on the property that the county currently owns. We spent quite a bit of effort doing that because we wanted to see if it was possible to do that without encroaching on any other land outside of the boundaries of what you own, other than the land needed for additional parking. We did several schemes which created a multi-story jail facility. In that case, there would be 4 stories of cells and then 2 stories of day rooms, and day rooms are 2 stories high. It was very difficult to accomplish this, and on that particular site, it was actually impossible. And so we were not able to create a design that would actually fit within the boundaries of the site. So we had to encroach on the street to the north of the site, which is Bushell Street. And so in the sheets that you see there, you will see that the footprint of the project is going over what is currently the Bushell Street, and therefore would have to incorporate the request and application to have Bushell Street closed in order to make that happen. We will say that what we have come up with and what you see on those sheets, it really, we think, meets all the current needs and future needs of the county for a jail project, and is something that is will meet the codes and will meet all of the standards set by the people in Raleigh that will be reviewing this. The building itself, now if you look at the second page, you can see in color, and it's the only color sheet in there other than the one I just handed out. But you can see the elevation there of the north elevation. We call that north. That's the elevation that would be on the Bushell Street side, and on the west, and that would be the elevation that is on the Meeting Street side. And you can see that we're putting material there that would be appropriate for a downtown site, particularly in this particular city. We're putting what you see, windows and other openings and other variations in the facade. The windows in all jails that we do now, almost all of the windows are non-existent. We do almost no windows in jails at this point in time. These windows are here because there is a requirement for it in order to meet the new downtown zoning. And many of the articulations and the variances that take place across the facade is there because these are requirements that we have to do.
That's the downtown Morganton zoning, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We have currently put in an application for a hearing for what's called an alternative design to be approved by the city of Morganton as it being in compliance with their new ordinance. There are two applications that can be filled out. One is an application to be in complete compliance, but because this is a jail project, and so many of the size and spaces and directions in which the building is formed is based on a criteria that's set by Raleigh for sizes and spaces, and criteria that's set for the need to have security throughout the facility. There are certain elements of the design that will not meet the exact letter of the downtown zoning. However, they do have something called an alternate design application, where we can say, okay, it didn't meet exactly, but we have an alternate design here, and these are the ways in which we have put extra effort in to accommodate the same intent of the zoning with what we've designed. And that's where we are now. We have a hearing coming up on the May 14th with the city to review that. Some of the other issues that we have addressed. Now, the first, I think, 12 sheets that you have in your package there are civil engineering sheets. And in the schematic design, we don't usually go into that much detail on civil engineering, but this being, number one, a tight site, number two, a downtown site, and number three, some issues in that site that needed to be looked at more carefully. We really put some of the things that would normally have been done in design development into this effort, so that we can be sure that we identify for you the entire scope of what you're having to do in order to accomplish this on this site. As you know, there is a 60-inch storm sewer that runs under the property on the other side, or the north side of Bushell Street, in an area that we are looking at for the potential place to put parking. It is a storm sewer that was put in sometime in the 1970s. To my knowledge, it has had very little attention done to it over those years. To my knowledge, there has been no stoppage or particular problem with it, other than the fact that it's been there a while. It's a corrugated pipe, and it was lined on the inside of the pipe, and we have hired a camera crew with a robot camera to go through and photograph it to see what's going on in there. The coating has eroded away from the bottom half of the pipe, so it is there. It's still working. As far as we can tell, it's in reasonable condition, although there is some evidence of corrosion taking place on the steel. I only point that out because it's an issue that is being shown on here, and is something that has to be addressed. There also is since we are proposing parking on that side of Bushell Street, we're replacing a pervious surface with impervious surface, and we're going to have to take all the runoff that'll occur on that asphalt, collect it, and put it in sand filters underneath the parking, and those sand filters will take all of the water, store it, and then it will feed it back into the regular storm system a little at a time, so you don't have a sudden surge because you have a greater runoff from impervious material. That's something else that's addressed. It's shown on the drawings. And just in case you're interested, it's on sheet L200. You can see it looks like little dark black rectangles running across there. That's just there, so you can see what's being addressed. As I mentioned before, there is an application that has been put forth to close Bushell Street. We're asked by the city to run both the application for the closing of Bushell Street and the application for the alternative design simultaneously, so that they could consider both and the impact of both. And so we still will have to wait and see what their position will be on those. Can I field questions at this point in time?
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, questions? For Jack?
What was the date of the hearings at the city?
The alternate design is May 14th. That's in 2 weeks. That's a little over 2 weeks.
Will they be considering the alternate design and the closure at the same time? Is that correct?
Well, there are two separate hearings, and the date of the other one is that on.
I want to believe that Monday in their normal business meeting, they would take up. If they were going to move forward with the street closure process, they would need to approve a resolution calling for the closure of the street, and then they have to advertise for, I believe, about 4 weeks, and then hold a public hearing. And after that, I think they make the actual final decision as to whether or not to close or leave it remaining open. But in order for the process to actually even get off the launching pad, the city would have to approve adoption of the resolution to close the street to get that process started.
Now, we made application and paid a fee to get this process started, is that correct?
That's correct, $750 for that, and then there was $750 for for the designed alternative.
Yeah, 600. 600.
600? Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
So have they processed that application and set a date to start that process?
Well,
Street closure?
that should be Monday.
Any other questions for Jack?
Just a thought question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
if you would. How far is it from Michelle Street up to the next, I don't know the name, but the next street in feet, yards?
Hey, I'm not sure which direction you're asking.
From Bouchelle Street over to White Street.
Yeah. That's a city block.
Yeah. The width of that piece of property is 400 feet, and if it's, and I can't tell on this, but if it's a rectangle, it's 400 feet, but it's probably better than 400 feet. I mean, if it's a square, it's 400.
Well, let me ask you a question before I let Brian talk. We're talking about the pipe the 60-inch pipe, and I think you've noted some concerns with that pipe. If this moves forward and we get the property, are we going to be the ones to tackling the pipe issue, or would Morganton be responsible for that drainage pipe at this time, or do you know, or have an opinion?
The pipe belongs to the city of Morganton. The county will place their facilities on top of it, and whether or not the city of Morganton will be willing to continue to maintain that underneath the county's property, I can't answer that.
Go bad scenario. We own the pipe. If we have to replace it, what would it cost us?
If you have to replace it, it's going to cost you $500,000. Now, there is another way to do it, and the part of the problem is it's 40 feet in the ground, and there is a less expensive way. If the pipe is not maintained in some way, it will fail and it will have to be replaced. But there is another way, and it can be recoated. The only way to do that, because it's 40 feet in the ground, is they have to lower a crew down in the manhole 40 feet in the ground. The crew has to do it by hand, dam it up, pipe the water over land, dam it up, and go from the high end down, and do it by hand. That's about, and we did a cost estimate of about $190,000 to do that.
Let me massage it for a moment. Go ahead.
Well, the one thing that I was going to ask Jack, if you could share with us, if you have those numbers, if we weren't in the downtown district and all these requirements, wouldn't have had to add all these windows and other.
Danny, turn this one while you're at it.
Other things. Do you have any kind of a cost estimate of what the downtown regulations have increased the cost of this project?
The cost, and as I mentioned, we generally just don't do jails with windows, especially downtown jails, because we have discovered that in 100% of the cases where there are windows, where inmates have access to the windows, they've abused it over time, and it just doesn't work. So we don't do it. We're having to do that here because we are making an effort to accommodate the zoning. These windows that you see on that elevation, they are real windows. However, the entire detention portion of the facility is surrounded by a mechanical space that's 5 feet wide and goes all the way around. And we do that so that all the people that have to go in and work on mechanical things, the duct work or the plumbing and all that, can do it in a space that's not in the inmate area. They can do it in a space, if they leave their monkey wrench laying in there, it's never going to do any damage. So those windows that we're looking at actually will look into that. But that exterior wall still has to be a secure wall, and so we actually have to build a window in that, and behind it we have to build another caged wall so that it's still a window. There's still light that will come out. We have to put blinds behind it so you won't see into it. So there's quite an expense to do that. Also, the articulation and the breaking up of the facade into smaller pieces, which I understand in a downtown project you want it to have more of a human scale. And that's why many jails look very monolithic. They do not have a human scale because they are what they are. But we've done it here. And then the third thing is we're using materials that are and what you see in that elevation there is brick and some stone, and it's a limestone sort of things that have the dignity of a public building in a downtown setting. But we're looking at between $400,000 and $500,000 to accommodate the needs for the zoning ordinance.
That would be the needs of the zoning that was just passed in January the 1st of
That's
this year
correct.
for Morganton. Okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things when we had a meeting with the city folks here a couple of weeks ago, they said that the staff was not in favor of this, that it was not designed the way they'd like it to be designed. They weren't positive about the parking lot, and I asked them about the drain pipe, and they said no, that they were going to abandon their right-of-way, and we would be required to maintain that pipe under the ground. And I asked them about if they were going to, go ahead and make some repairs because it was needing some repairs. And no, they didn't have any reason to make any repairs. And I said, did you know that there's problems? And they didn't. And we provided them a copy of the video disc that showed the expiration of that pipe. But one of the things that they were saying is, well, we'd rather you build up instead of coming out into Bouchelle Street and then look at building a parking deck. And Jack, I think you were telling me there are just some issues with building up and being able to meet the state's requirement for daylight, and you have to alter the building. And I wonder if you could just go into that and give the commissioners an idea of what that would cost if we attempted to do that. Plus, you would only be able to come up with about 200 beds, and we're trying to get to 255, 256. And you're not going to get there from day one if you build it that way.
But please talk about the cost of a parking deck too, as you speak.
I'm sorry, what?
Please talk about the cost of
Okay.
a parking deck
All right.
too, if you.
Okay, and your question first. Yeah, the first, and we did really work at this because we knew that it was a major concern of a lot of people. But in order to make it fit on the existing site, we would have to go up 4 floors for the beds, for the cells. And by virtue of doing it, we still have to have the same amount of square footage. It would run the cost of the project up. It also would be more difficult to keep safe for multiple reasons. Number one, you've got half your inmates on elevated areas. They'd have to be taken up by additional elevators. They have to be escorted up on the elevators. The fire exit from those areas is more difficult. You would have to, the design that you have right now, and you can see on the the second page of the architectural plans, there is a central area that's called control room. The control room area can see every single inmate, every single step they make during every single daytime that they're in there. In the night, they're locked down in the cell. They're locked down 8 hours, they're out 16. From those controls, that's maximum control. And if we go multiple floors, you got to have 2 of these, and so you're going to double the size of your staff just to watch the same number of inmates. Also, we are required to have daylight into every single one of these day rooms. And because we put the day rooms in a place where there are no windows, we do it by skylights. When you have multiple levels, you can't have skylights on the lower level, so we would have to shift the overall design and structure of the building in order to do that and get outside light into those day rooms. Not only would that cost a lot more money, it would also make the compliance with these downtown standards for the look of a building very, very difficult, if not impossible.
And talk about the parking deck.
And the parking deck, now the only property that I know of that is adjacent to the courthouse property, other than the one that is being considered on the other side of Bushell Street, is the one that's on the other side of Meeting Street. Is that what we're talking about? And that is not a very large piece of property, and I believe it holds 63 cars. The amount of parking that we're getting on the other side of Bushell Street is between 150 and 160 cars. If we created that as a multi-level parking lot, you will not get 63 cars per level, and it will probably be 4, 5, or 6 levels. It would be very expensive. The average cost per car, per parking space in the United States for a parking deck is $15,000. Some have been able to whittle that down to $10,000. However, that's still within the CBD district and would still be required to have consideration of the zoning to make it happen. So that $15,000 would probably be optimistic.
In addition to that waterway, you also have a sewage line on that property that we have to deal with. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, I'm glad you said that. Underneath the site, and this is what we expected, and it's typical for a downtown site. Underneath the site, the property and adjacent, is a bowl of spaghetti. You know, with the electric lines going into there, with the sewer lines, with the storm sewer lines, with the gas lines. There's a lot, and all of those things we're going to have to reroute. You know, but we anticipated that. We would do that in any downtown site. We understand that. So it is.
Would that, a second question to that, you said that waterway is 40 foot below surface.
Yes, sir.
Why 40 foot? Do you know the explanation to that? Why is it so deep?
Because it was originally, that was originally a gully that ran through the town. And it's an intermittent stream, and it only takes the water of its surrounding property and runs it down to the creek. But there was a school on the site where the courthouse is now, an elementary school. And what was done, that elementary school was going to be demolished, and so they ran a 60-inch pipe through there to capture the water, and then put the elementary school on top of it, and then put fill on top of that. So that believe it or not, that gully was 40 feet deep.
Well, is it necessary to be 40 foot deep? Would it have to remain 40 feet deep?
That's a great question, because I was hoping the answer would be no, it did not have to remain. But it is taking off. There are some natural springs down there, and it's taking that water and running it off. Now, there is another 60-inch line that runs down Bushell Street and stops right at Meeting Street, which was intended to go all the way across, and it was actually, instead of doing that, they diverted the line and took it down and dumped it into that 60-inch line. The only reason I mention that is the volume that's going through there is twice what that was originally anticipated it would be. And the life of that line could be preserved if that other line were continued as it was originally designed to be.
Well, I'm just trying to get a picture of all our options. My next question to you on that would be, and I know we don't want a 4-foot cement open top, you know, V, exaggerated V, U, that carries that water, but would that be one answer, and would that be less money?
I'm sorry, to go in the location. The problem is the water that's running through the bottom of that thing is coming from natural springs that are coming out at that level, and you have to capture it. And it's going. What you don't want is for all the soil to be eroded underneath that and to have a sinkhole.
Okay. Good report, Jack. Anybody else have any comments?
Jack, if you take this jail that we were talking about and put it in the city down there, what's the cost? What is the cost of it right now? The estimated cost
Of the project as it is right now?
Uh-huh.
The last time we did a thorough study of that, we were looking at $14.8 million. And as we speak, the CM at Risk contractor that you've hired has a copy of these drawings, and they're going to come up with their first statement as to what they think the costs are. Some of the things we have just talked about have changed a little bit since we came up with that 14.8, and so we'll see. And I think it'll be at about a week or so before they come up with that number.
So if we take that same jail and place it somewhere outside of the city, other than where it's at right now, what would the cost be?
Well, you immediately have the $500,000 taken away, coming away that we talked about, that is required to put it in this CBD district. But in addition to that, you get rid of the bowl of spaghetti, and you get rid of this other sewer line and some other issues. And I have said that I'm sure that it's greater than $1 million. I'm sure that the differential in cost is greater than $1 million.
Okay, clear the 60-inch pipe up, or whatever size it is. Is that under the property, or would it be under the jail?
It's under the property on the other side of Bushell Street.
Okay.
Be under the parking deck, I believe, Jack.
The parking area, yes, sir.
Well, they had a pipe problem a few years ago there, and it was pretty nasty down that way. One of those pipes fell, and I can't remember the details on it, but they flooded that area down there pretty good.
And I believe I know which one you're talking about. When they made when they stopped the second 60-inch line at Meeting Street and made a diversion over and down 40 feet, they covered that up, and then after a couple of years, they had a sinkhole. Something happened in terms of that connection that eroded the water away, and they had to go back in and refix it. And they've actually taken the first 34 feet of that 60-inch line down 40-feet line, and they have put a liner in that for the first 34 feet. And that 34 feet is it's only 38 inches wide instead of the 60 inches. But that's what's down there right now. And I'm sure that was very expensive because they had to dig that whole thing out. But that's what that was all about.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to do some study on this project.
Yeah,
I remember there was a single sheet of paper came out. I don't know what I did with mine, but I think it listed 4 different sites or 3 different sites and a cost of putting a jail in those areas. I don't know where we got a copy of it or not, but I'd like to get a copy of that if possible. I don't know what out in mine. I guess dog ate it or something.
I've got that, Jack. I'll send it to you.
But we need to talk about this. We're looking at something that could cost a lot of money down the road. I'm afraid, but we better make sure that we know what we're doing before we do it.
Well, that's the whole purpose of this report, to get every piece of information we can so we can make a good decision for the citizens as we move forward.
Because there's other properties around here that you can place that jail without a further cost to the county. We wouldn't even have to buy the property. We already have the property. So, and I don't know why people talk about safety a big issue just because having it at the courthouse would be more safe. I worked for the Department of Correction for 16 years, and I never had an issue working with closed custody inmates. If you got officers that understand their job and conduct themselves in that manner, you don't have any problem with the safety in handling these people. So just to say it's going to be a better safety to have it there is not an issue with me, because I don't think we should make a decision on millions of dollars just on that matter alone. So we'll see, I guess.
Seems how we've been saddled with it because of some ordinances. Okay.
Well, you know about very well about jails and prisons stacked on top of each other. Stories up here, 16
sir.
stories, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's just not a good environment to have people in working with prisoners.
All right, Jack. We appreciate it so much. A great update. Thank you, sir. Mr. Randall, thank you so much for being here for that.
Thank you.
All righty. Moving on to our next report, I've asked Paul to give us an update on our financial report through March 31st. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Included in your material, I've put together sort of simplified from what you actually have in the county's budget, because we've got hundreds and hundreds of accounts, obviously. But in the revenue section for the general fund, I listed the two categories where really is the discretionary money for the county commissioners, the property taxes and sales tax, and then lumped everything else into just one total for a total budgeted revenues of $78,432,572.
You mean 78 million?
Excuse me?
78 million?
Yeah, what did I say?
78,000.
Ah, okay, yeah, 78 million.
Long day.
Yeah. And through March, our revenues are $64,573,862. If you look at the property taxes, you'll see the majority of those funds have already come in. You know, property taxes is very cyclical. You know, you get the bulk of your money July and August and December, January. So going forward the rest of the year, you know, our revenues obviously will decline greatly. And so, you know, there's a balance of almost $13.9 million left in revenues at this point in time. In expenditures, I've listed each departmental budget separately. Some of the budgets have been combined. For example, the sheriff, that he's responsible for not just his operation, but animal control and the detention, and tax has like 4 budgets in theirs. But so on a lot of these, you'll just see a consolidated overall total. And I won't go through and read each individual one, but you can see where those budgets are at the end of March. Now, the one thing I will point out, a lot of your expenditures, you know, they'll get paid in March, which reflect here, but they're actually expenses for the month of February. So, you know, it's not really a 9-month, comparison on the expenditures. Some of those is really only reflective of 8 months. So if you look at the total bottom line, at this point in time, if this was the end of the year, fund balance would increase by approximately $8.6 million. Now, as we go forward, each month here out, that number will continue to decline and decline. So I don't want commissioners to see that number and get your hopes up that there's going to be that kind of surplus at the end of the year. Then after that, I included the enterprise funds, because those are operations that the county sets user fees and rates for in order to recoup the operational cost. Water and sewer, currently we're running $453,000 a head. Solid waste disposal, $425,000, and solid waste collection is roughly $140,000 head. So we're in good shape through 9 months. We're ahead in all those funds, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, gentlemen, questions for Paul?
Yeah, Paul, I've got a question here on the fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we're going to end up at the end of the year? Are we going to have to spend more of the fund balance? We're going to have about what we had last year. Will there be an increase?
Well, right now, if I had to tell you, of course, I don't want to guarantee anything, but we should have a slight increase, because we're
5%, 3%.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're not quite as in good a shape this year at March as we were last year, but we're not far off. And last year we ended up with adding a couple million to it. So, but there's a lot of expenses in here still left to hopefully be incurred. We have things, for example, like Danny's tax software system that hopefully we will finish that project up this fiscal year, and that number will go away. But as you can see right now, in tax, for example, there's $1 million left to be spent and that's really reflective of the tax system, implementation. So,
But generally, you would say you're satisfied where we're going to end up with the year? We're going to be within the parameters we need to be?
yeah, I don't see anything right now, one way or the other, that is anything to worry about.
So we won't get a nasty letter from the local government commission saying our fund balance was really low like it was at one time?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hopefully those days of getting letters from LGC are past.
Gosh, I hope so. We fought that long enough. All right, any other questions for Paul?
Paul, you mentioned Danny's project.
Mm-hmm.
How long has that been going on?
That's been a few years now. I don't know.
How long was it supposed to go on when it started out?
Well, I don't know the dates on that contract. I mean, me personally, and this is just a perception, it seemed like it was drug on for decades, but that's not.
Me too. Still going on with that.
Yeah, I think
I'd just like to know when it's going to end.
Jack, that's going to be your next report. I've got it on my agenda, sat down with Danny, and he's going to make a report just like Paul's making one tonight. I'm kind of wanting to know where that's at myself.
Yeah, I think
We're going to have the actual company come up and explain why they ain't got the job done like they were supposed to.
Yeah, I think the target date was June 1st, if I'm not mistaken, is the last date I heard. I actually have all that.
June the 1st, 2010?
No, the project didn't even start in 2010. That was 2012 or so before.
Mr. Manager, it would be a fair assessment to say we're not pleased with the service we received. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
And in an initial discussion that Paul and I were involved in a few months back, the representative of the company even told us that they had made changes that impacted this project that Danny was not aware of and we were not aware of, and I was not very pleased and told him that they were going to be coughing up some bucks to pay for costs that we shouldn't have had to have incurred with maintaining the Borman system longer than we should have, as well as some other things. I was not very pleased with them. Now we're about 3/4 to 7/8 of the way across the stream, and changing horses now is probably going to make a lot of sense. But that is a complex system, and there's multiple elements of it. And I have asked that we have the company representative come and do a presentation to this board as to why. I almost wanted to tell Danny why we don't terminate our relationship with them. But again, we are probably 6 to 7/8 of the way through the project now. At least that's what I am optimistically believing, that maybe we are that far along with it. But we'll have a report for you soon.
Okay. Any other questions for Paul? Excellent report, my man. Thank you so very much. All right, moving on, County Manager, give us an update on the shooting range proposal by NC Wildlife.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I have provided some emails and some maps. We'd had contact through the sheriff from the state wildlife wanting to know if they could come up and meet with us and discuss alternatives. And we were glad to do that, and showed them some possibilities. And they looked out at near our landfill where they have actual state property, and that's one of the pictures there. But let's move on to another one, Steve. Let me get through that one there. Yes, you see this color photo, and it's got the names Johns River Game Land. And then there's a legend, and you'll see the kind of the brownish area there is where our current landfill is, and where the red star is, that's where the sheriff's firing range is at this time. And then when you look to the left of that, you see somewhat of a purple square with looks like the silhouette of somebody firing a rifle. That is the area that they are actually looking at as a potential site, and it's accessed by a dirt road the state has. And we can also block it off from coming into the landfill. But this is a good ways away from a lot of homes. Shooting range from the sheriff's office is in that area. And then there's another slide past the one you're showing, Steve. Yes, that was just an initial idea about that placement of the range. And if you look very closely, you can actually see a silhouette of the parking lot and road out to the existing gravel road. I believe in our meeting with them, they said that they would probably pave that road. And again, it comes back in there. It's a ways from homes. He has called me of late and told me that I guess our overhead, Steve, let's go to the one that shows the red buffer lines. Keep going. One more. Yes, you can see the red buffer lines were the estimated half mile from existing residents, and they may have found a home that was not in the aerial photograph of that area that's a little bit closer. So they are saying that in their study they may see about shifting a little further down to try and maintain a half a mile distance from that residence that was not in the original overhead aerial photography the county has of that part of the county. But we're waiting to hear back from them, and there's some others. There's another slide, Steve, go to it. That one there. It's maybe a little bit easier to see the red line, and you can see the kind of the light brown area. That's the existing landfill, and where they're talking about is off to the left there, kind of in that green area. I'm not sure if it would be in the part with the X marks or if it would be in the solid green area. But again, they've got some land there. I think they can try to be at least a half a mile from homes and be responsive to the Board of County Commissioners and our citizens that had concerns about the original location that was being proposed. And they actually liked this. When they got to looking at it and sat down with us and talked to us about it, they said, oh yeah, this is a good place to go. So, we're waiting to hear back from them. They've got to do some studies, and as soon as we hear anything, I'll forward that information to the board. But I did want to go ahead and update you and our citizens as to the what I believe is progress towards getting to a win-win on the rifle range that the Wildlife Commission is interested in providing.
All right, gentlemen, any questions for Brian? All right, Brian, thank you very much for that report. Moving on to vacancy announcements, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We currently have the following vacancies on boards and commissions: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, the Adult Care Community Home Advisory Committee, the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, the Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the Morganton Board of Adjustment for the ETJ, and Foothills Regional Airport.
Okay, thank you. Any closing remarks, JR?
No, sir, none.
Maynard?
Just one, if I may, Mr. Chairman. An invite, if you don't have a church of your own, we have Women's Day at First Baptist Church in Hildebrand, and our guest for that day's speaker is Mrs. Meadows, Mark Meadows' wife, so I invite you to come and join us.
Right. Jeff?
None, sir.
Jack?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring up a subject that I found out recently when I was in the hospital. EMS brought in a patient, and the driver of the vehicle mentioned that they had gotten lost on that run, and it kind of brought to, a question, what do you mean you got lost? I thought all these ambulances, were geared to go to the place, that they're called to go. Then I talked to the EMS director here recently, and he says that we have a lot of homes that are in this county that they can't actually, even under the current system, go and pick up that person without, going by the road and turn right, turn this, turn that. And he tells me that there is a system that they equip the ambulances with that would take them to most of the homes in the county. So I asked him I don't know if he talked to the county manager or not about this, but I think we need to talk to him and see what it is, because we shouldn't have a system that we can't reach all the homes when they're called to go to a call from that home for ambulance services. So I'd like to, maybe talk about this or place it on the agenda coming up and have the EMS director come and talk to us about that.
Okay, Brian, could you approach Greg and see what it is and get us a meeting, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's all. Go ahead. Thanks.
I was going to see if you wanted anything else. Madam Clerk, anything?
Good, thanks.
Okay. We do not have a need for a closed session tonight, so I will declare us in recess until May the 5th, 2015 at 4 p.m.